Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Nahmaduhu wa nusalli ala Rasulil Kareem. So last two lessons we went through the 8 rules of syllogisms. Now we didn't explain why or like why it doesn't work out. So what I want to go through in this lesson is explain those 8 rules. Well, some of them are very obvious why they don't work, but the others why they don't work and the flaws in them. Okay. So we have inference. Yes, remember inference. We have direct inference and indirect. Direct is when you use one sentence to deduce new information. And in there we have, what other ways of deducing information with one sentence?
Direct.
Yeah, so direct is what?
Conversion.
Conversion, Arabic is called? Aks. And then we have obversion. Contradictory. Subaltern, contrary, and subcontrary. And in indirect we use deduction, and we use induction and analogy. And deduction we were discussing what? Categorical syllogisms, and that's what we finished so far. What have we done in here? Major term, major premise, minor term and minor premise. Good, you're right, you got it. Then middle term, and then what's the final result? The conclusion. You following? And then hypothetical syllogism, disjunctive syllogism, and conjunctive syllogism. And then you have induction analogy with you later on, inshallah. So the 8 rules of syllogisms, we had the fallacy of 4 terms, then fallacy of 4 propositions. And that's obvious why those won't work, because syllogism only has to have 3. And the main problem of 4 terms is not in having 4 terms, but what? In having 3 words, but with 4 meanings. So you have equivocation, where you have 3 words, they look like all the same, but one word is using multiple meanings. So the first 2 are to do with number of things. The second 2 are to do with what? Distribution. What's the rule? The middle has to be distributed at least once, and whatever is distributed in the natija must also be distributed in the premise. Whatever is distributed in the conclusion must also be distributed in the premise. And if it's not, it's called fallacy of illicit major or fallacy of illicit minor. You can have 2 negatives, no 2 negatives. And you can't. And if you have 1 negative, then the conclusion must at least be what? Must be what? Negative. You can't have 2 not positives, 2 particulars. And if you have one particular, the conclusion must be what? Particular. Good? Now let's look at this categorical system in Venn diagram. And from there you realize, okay, why it doesn't work. So look, all nafs, what's nafs mean in English? What's a nafs? Soul. So nafs, is this a true fact? All nafs are mortal? Why? Kullu nafsin dha'iqatul maut. All souls, all living beings are mortal. So we have nafs and we have mortal. You have 2 circles. What would we shade in right here? What? Which one? 1, 2, or 3? Going from this side. 1, 2, or 3?
No, 1. No, 1.
We shaded 1 because nothing exists in here. Because there's no nafs, it's not mortal, isn't it? That's what we'll have. Yes? Now, if we say Ahmad is a nafs, so what's our conclusion going to be? No, if Ahmad is a nafs, where does Ahmad fall under? Is there any of Ahmad is that a nafs?
No.
So basically Ahmad is a nafs, means all of Ahmad is a nafs, isn't it?
Yeah.
So therefore what we're going to shade? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7?
7.
Huh?
7 and 6. The non-nafs basically.
Huh? The Ahmad is non-nafs. Yeah, isn't it? Because all of Ahmad is a nafs, isn't it? So therefore what are we left with?
No, you shade a bit more though. No, not the mutter, because you know nothing about mutter. No, but that's Ahmad non-nafs.
Yeah. So Ahmad. So let's converse. So no Ahmad is a non-nafs, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you obverse it, no Ahmad is a non-nafs, isn't it?
If go to the next part. Yeah. This in that one, there's 3 circle of Ahmad and outside of nafs.
Where?
The mutter part.
Yeah, we're not saying there is. We say possibility.
No, but then we say all Ahmad is nafs.
Huh?
We don't have in that premise.
So that's what we're not excluding that fact. We're just saying here that we know all nafs are mortal, and all of Ahmad is what?
A nafs.
All of Ahmad is a nafs.
So in here there's Ahmad non-nafs.
That is not all nafs.
Yeah.
Oh right, yeah, this should be shaded. Yeah, you're right. Yeah. Yeah, this should be shaded as well. Yeah, I missed that out. That should be shaded as well. Because all of Ahmad is a nafs, correct. So what's our conclusion going to be? Ahmad, all of Ahmad is mortal. So you see, that's how when you get the three put together, you come to this conclusion that if this is right, you get this thing that come about.
But by mortal, are you saying did you die?
Yeah. Why?
Because by saying nafs, you're saying it is there.
Mm. So basically, what you're looking at is the terms. So for example, if you say let's change it into something else. All n is m. Forget what it means. A is n, therefore A is m. This is the form. So the form is correct. Now, what your question you're raising is, what do you mean by mortal? That's all then. That's to do with that's non-formal issues, which is to do with definition or what you mean, intended meaning. But the form is correct. Okay. Now, why does a fallacy of undistributed middle? What does undistributed middle mean? That the middle term is not distributed at any one time. What does distribution mean? That the term in the proposition does not give us information about the whole term. So, for example, all races are Brexit voters. Assume this, right? So all those who let's just assume it's right that all those people who don't like whatever their race is, they voted for Brexit, for example. So this is what kind of proposition is this? What kind of proposition is this? An A proposition. Now in an A proposition, what is distributed? This is distributed. This is not sub-distributed. So we have here. So now this is Brexit, and we have racist. So what we shade 1, 2, or 3? 3. Because no races except outside of the Brexit voters, yes? Now, if say John is a Brexit voter, we have John. Now, what do you say John is what? All of John is what?
So you take out the John, you take out the John which is non-Brexit and non-racist. No, you take out the John which is
So all of John is a Brexit. Yeah, this should be thing as well, right? So basically, it means because the version of that is what? No John is non-Brexit. Correct? Now, can we conclude that John is racist?
No.
We can't conclude that. Because where does he? Because he could fall here, he could fall there. So you can't make with undistributed middle term. This is the middle term here. This is already the middle term. Because we don't have this Brexit is not what? It's not distributed. So you wouldn't get the problem come up here because you can come either you can be a Brexit racist voter or Brexit non-racist voter. Maybe there's nothing to race, whatever reason we have, economics or whatever his reason was, economy or history or legacy or whatever.
What does only count as?
Not, but it's not. For example,
Is it A, E, I, O?
you have to look at it. What he's talking about.
Like if this, for example, only A or B.
Yeah. So only.
A or B.
So only racists are Brexit voters. All Brexit voters are racist. That's not true. That's a fallacy.
Yeah, the thing's first, but
Yeah.
this is happening.
Yeah, it would be all.
Only A or B.
All B are A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is that A?
That's an A proposition.
So only A or B.
Is.
So that means all B or A. That means some A or B.
You have to look at. You have to look at it. The only can be translated in different ways depending on what its intended meaning is. Is in Balaga? Is it qasam mawsuf sifa qasam sifa al-mawsuf? Depending on what you're talking about. Do you understand why here? So if you look at this table, you can see here that the undistributed middle, because when it's undistributed, you don't know about the whole term, isn't it? So the whole term is not made exclusive. You have two possibilities. It can be here, it can be here. You understand? So that's why when you chart off an undistributed middle, it wouldn't give you any sound conclusion. You can't, because it can be either way. Okay? So John is racist, that's not correct. So because, again, this came the same, so remember, so forget the technical term, the formal argument, in normal day-to-day critical thinking and logic and debates and everything, just because one person has an agreement with somebody else or another party in one particular issue, it's not logically sound to say they are that. You understand? Are you following? Are you following? Pay attention, please. You got it? Yes? Make sense? So for example, look, if you say, for example, let's say somebody wants to do what? Let's say somebody, for example, says they have a similar view to Marxists. You can't call them Marxists. That's undistributed middle. Somebody has the same view as Donald Trump, one thing. You can't say he's the same as Donald Trump, he's the thing. Like for example, so people say, if you vote for Republicans, if Republican you vote for Donald Trump or you vote for somebody else, you are what? You're racist. That's not true. Because what's happening here, you just attributing one vote, you're sharing one quality. So anything like that, huh? Even this one, huh? Pardon me? What do you mean? Yes, this is wrong. So for example, you can say for example, you could say so one person has one shared quality with somebody else. It doesn't mean that they're all of that. This is a fallacy of undistributed middle. So instead of going through all the forms, when you see that being discussed anywhere, straight pick that out. That this is a fallacy of undistributed middle. When you analyze it, and it comes, for example, you say, well, okay, for example, the beard. So what happens? So some people, this is even less, not even all people have beards. But say, for example, so the argument is even weaker. Some people with terrorist attacks have beards, not even all. So therefore you have a beard, therefore you're a terrorist. That's undistributed middle. And it's even weaker because what? It's two particulars. Some people with beards have, not all people with beards. You get what I'm saying? So that's, again, so that kind of thing, when you attribute one person sharing another quality to somebody else, and you attribute it to that quality, that party, that ideology, that's the fallacy of undistributed middle. You understand?
But generally,
it will always work. It will be undistributed middle. So any what can we use for example? So
yeah, like this example. Like this example.
So this example, yeah, this example. Another example we got, for example, if somebody says, I agree with stricter immigration policies. Doesn't mean they're racist. Many people have want stricter immigration rules because of racism, and some for other reasons. You can't just accuse that person of that. Somebody says, I think we shouldn't bomb terrorists, or we shouldn't bomb we shouldn't have war. Doesn't mean you support the people who are doing wrong. Support the government. Say, I'm not in favor of war. You get what I'm saying? People use that a lot. You get what I'm saying? So for example, so some extremists have certain views, but if you share that view, it doesn't mean you're an extremist, or you get what I'm saying? Because it's so many things you can have a similar view. It doesn't mean that unless that view itself is extremist, obviously, or violent or criminal. You get what I'm saying? I can't think of examples now properly, but you get the idea, the concept. Okay. Fallacy of illicit major, same thing will happen. Why? Let's say, for example, all ulama are people who study the Quran. So you have here ulama and people who study the Quran. So what will happen? What will shade out? Number one, yes? Then we have here, no people in the city are ulama. No people in the city are ulama. What does that mean? What do you shade out? You already seen it. The middle one, because why? There are no people in the city who are ulama. Can we deduce that no people in the city are people who study the Quran? No. From the table you can see, because why? It could be simple in this category. No? And why is it not working here? Because look, we have all ulama. So what's here? In the conclusion, in no, what's distributed in no? Both. This is distributed, and this is going to be distributed, yes? So therefore, both this and this must be distributed, correct? Because both are distributed in the conclusion, both must be distributed where? In the premise. And an A proposition, all, is not distributed. So therefore, the conclusion will not be correct. You can see from the table when you draw it out, because there will be some people who could fall in this category. You can't deduce with certainty. Yes? You can't just look at the form and say this is a true statement. You have to analyze. Maybe you can go and start doing research, and maybe there are no people in the city who said the Quran. Possible. But you just by this information, you can't come to a certain conclusion. So the thing with formal fallacy is once you know the two premises are true, you don't need to analyze anything else. This is enough information to come to the conclusion. Okay? You had it. Illicit minor. Look at this. All doctors are people who earn 20K. What kind of proposition is this? A. So what's distributed? Doctors. Okay. You have doctors and 20K. What's going to be shaded out? Number 3 is going to be shaded out. Yes? The next one we have, all people who earn 20K are people who pay 20% tax. So you have here now 20% taxpayers. So where will they be? What are you going to shade out? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7? Huh? Are you sure? All people who earn 20K.
No, you shade out number 1. Because 20K is distributed.
Shade out 1 and 2 as well?
Yeah, okay, that will work.
Because, so say, all, again here, what's distributed in here? This is distributed in here. Yes? Because we're saying here, everybody who earns 20% are people who pay Oh no, sorry, everybody who earns 20, all 20K people are people who pay 20%. So nobody is 20K earner who doesn't fall in this category here. So you have to distribute, so that's it. Now, can we conclude from this now? Can we conclude from this?
Doctors pay 20%.
Huh?
Doctors pay.
Yeah, we can conclude that all doctors pay 20%, but we can't conclude what? All people who pay 20% are doctors. Because we know all doctors fall within which branch? 20% tax band. Yes? Again, assuming these premises are true, that they earn that much and they fall and they don't have any exemptions or tax, whatever, but you get the idea? You following? Because you can have there. But you can come to the conclusion that all doctors are people who pay 20%. That would work. Two negatives? Why do two negatives not work? No pens are cheap things, so you have pens and cheap things, so what will happen? What would you circle out?
And 3. No, just 2.
What would you circle out?
2.
2. Because no pens are cheap things. This is remember E proposition is what? Tabayun. Remember? The E proposition is same as tabayun. Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah.
So no E, no pens are cheap things. And then no books are pens. So then what we should out in here? No books are pens?
3.
Huh?
3.
What's it? 1, 2, 3. No books.
Like.
Not 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Number 6.
The left center.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No books are pens.
Yeah, that.
We shade that one out. Now what can we come to the conclusion? What can we come to the conclusion here?
Some books are cheap.
Not necessarily.
Some books not cheap.
Not necessarily.
You can't come to the conclusion some books not cheap.
Huh?
You cannot come to a conclusion.
Not 100%. It's possible that all books are cheap. Because no books, we don't know anything about this. We say a possibility. We're not guaranteed that no books are cheap. Or no books are cheap or all books are cheap. We don't know. Because this is all we have now. The possibility that we don't know about this. It's not distributed, isn't it? So we don't know about books. Do some books fall here? Do some books fall here? We don't know. Yes? So two negatives, we can't come, no books are cheap things. We can't be sure about that. We're not saying that no, why do we cross that out? We have no reason or no evidence to cross that one out. Are you following?
Doesn't that give you the thing that some books are not cheap?
We don't know anything about books and cheapness.
Okay.
We don't know if they are cheap, not cheap. We can't do any conclusion regarding that. It just, we'll have to look at data. The form is not a valid form.
What about the E and the O? Can you work anything with that?
An A, E, no, you can't. Two negatives will never give a thing. Because what you're doing is you know what something isn't, so you can't come to conclude what something is. And even then, if you look at it, if you can draw out an negative, you can draw out an A, an E, and an O, but you still get the same problem. Because you're removing certain things, but the remaining data is not enough to get a full conclusion regarding what's left. So you see why these things don't work. So the rules are there, but they've been tested. So remember those 8 rules. Are you following? Any questions? Yes? Okay. If you've got 2 particulars, so some pens are cheap things, what will happen now here?
You don't know anything.
Yeah, it's because some books are cheap things like, so if you go here, for example, some pens are cheap things. So we know that some exist in here, right? But we don't know about if some pens are not cheap things. We don't know about this. Then some books are cheap things, so we know that some fall in here. Yes? Some fall. I can't erase it. And if you go over here, let's delete this and delete this. So we know some books are cheap things, and some pens are cheap things. Some books are pens. We don't have information regarding this. That middle circle, we have no information regarding that. We have no information regarding this. And we don't even have information regarding all of this. We know some of them are like that. You following? You got it? Okay, subhanallah wa bihamdi, subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika, nashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk.